Is the Western world having a crisis of faith in the capitalist system? And what can both the private sector and governments do to restore trust at this challenging time? In this edition of the Expert Insights series, I'll be discussing these issues and more with a remarkable and inspiring female business leader, Lady Lynn Forrester de Rothschild. She began her career practicing corporate law in New York City and subsequently took on dynamic leadership roles with various enterprises. Since 2002, she served as the chief executive of private investment company E.L. Rothschild. Lady Lynn Forrester de Rothschild is also a member of organizations such as the International Institute of Strategic Studies and the United States Council on Foreign Relations, to name a few. I hope you enjoy the dialogue. Thank you so much for being with us today, Lady Lynn Forrester de Rothschild. May I call you Lynn?
Please do.
Wonderful. So let's dive straight in and talk about something very topical. Since the onset of the financial crisis, as you're aware, the private sector has been at the receiving end of quite a lot of anger and discontent from many of its stakeholders, not to mention some pretty bad press. Now, with trust being such a vital part of a company's license to operate, what do you think businesses need to be doing to restore it?
Well, first of all, you're absolutely right about the facts. The Edelman Foundation does a trust survey in 18 countries every year, and they found that right now, only 38% of the people in those 18 countries believe that corporations will do the right thing. So it's a devastating collapse of confidence and trust in our corporations. Corporations have to begin to show that they are taking care of all of the stakeholders, that they're taking care of their consumer, they're taking care of their worker, they're taking care of their shareholder, not just the shareholder, not just the management. So I think it is a process of getting back to good behavior.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and that'll certainly go some way in ensuring their own long-term sustainability, in addition to that of the communities in which they operate. Lynn, I'd love to know more now about the Henry Jackson Initiative, which I believe you're co-chairing. Tell me about it.
The Henry Jackson Initiative for Inclusive Capitalism is a private sector initiative, and Dominic Barton, the head of McKinsey, and I are the co-chairs. We have a fabulous group of American and British CEOs, academics, policymakers, from Larry Summers in the United States to Adam Posen, to here we have Angela Ahrendts, the CEO of Burberry, a wonderful group who came together and said that what you started with, which is that capitalism is being attacked. And we believe that capitalism is the greatest engine for growth and well-being for the most people of any economic system on the planet. But we also admit that some things have gone haywire. Some behaviors have gone haywire. So what we intend to do in the Henry Jackson Initiative is to promote our concept of capitalism. What the Henry Jackson Initiative for Inclusive Capitalism is all about is being honest about the bad behaviors, but saying, you know what, there's a lot of good behavior out there. There are pathways that we can take as the private sector that will increase the public's appreciation and buy-in of capitalism. We want to highlight and showcase the companies that are doing it right, the companies that are creating education opportunities for people who don't have it, companies that are buying from small and medium enterprises, companies that are focusing on good government, companies that actually say, we could do that, but it wouldn't be right, so we're not going to do it.
I look forward to following the Henry Jackson Initiative from its launch, and I hope it goes from strength to strength. Lynn, I want to move on to something slightly personal. You began your career in 1980 as a corporate law associate in New York City. What has your experience been of the corporate world in terms of how it's evolved since then?
When I graduated from law school in 1980, I still remembered women going to work with gloves on. I had a professor who subsequently became a Supreme Court justice, but who became a wonderful mentor to me. And she said, Lynn, you're going to have an easier time than I did, but it's not going to be easy for you as a woman, because she could see I was serious about my career. She graduated from Columbia Law School and was offered secretarial jobs. So from Ruth Bader Ginsburg, the justice, to Lynn Forrester, the legal associate, a lot had happened correctly. But I just wrote a piece in the Huffington Post about women at the top. So right now, half of law schools are women. Half of business schools are women. Women excel in the education. But we only have 5 women CEOs in the FTSE 100. We only have 18 in the Fortune 500 in the States. So less than 5% of the top are women. Dismal. And even on corporate boards, in each country, US and UK, about 14, 15%. That is appalling. So the question about why that's the case is very interesting. I think women have come a long way from when I graduated from law school, but clearly up at the very top, there is still a glass ceiling.
Well, I hope we'll see some progress then in the future, as we have done in the timeline from when you first started to now. Lastly, Lynn, if I can ask you to pick 3 things going forward that you want to see the private sector do this year to drive sustainable growth, what would they be? And I'm putting you on the spot here.
You are putting me on the spot. 3 things that the private sector can do.
Towards specifically sustainable growth.
Well, I think the first thing is, at any level that is sustainable for the company or the person, contribute in some way to the education of someone else. Do something to increase a person's productive potential. And you could do that for selfish reasons, because you need that employee. I don't care what your motivation is, but if I had a magic wand and I could do anything, it would be to increase the education level for everyone. I think the other thing that if I had a magic wand, this is a trick question probably, but that companies can do, I think that companies should be celebrating and acting in accordance with more of the good that they do. Companies should step up and say, this is how I've cut my energy bill. This is how I'm bringing in packaging. This is what I'm doing to bring up women. And I would like to see companies feel that there is credit given to doing good, to having an impact. So education, I would say, number 1. Number 2, an impact agenda. And number 3, I would say, just plain old good ethics. You know, Supreme Court justice was asked to define obscenity, and they defined obscenity in the case as you know it when you see it.
Sometimes it's quite obvious.
Good behavior is obvious when you see it. Just behave well. Just do the right thing. All 3 of those things, by the way, I don't care if they're motivated by self-interest, because if we live in a society where there's self-interest, where there's congratulations, where people and institutions and corporations are elevated for their goodness, not only their wealth or their glitziness, but their goodness, we're going to have a much better society, more happy people.
Celebrating good old-fashioned ethical behavior.
Yeah.
Lynn, thank you for your insight on that, and thank you for having this dialogue with us today. It's been an absolute pleasure.
The pleasure's all mine. You're
Wonderful.
amazing.
Oh, thank you so much.
Thank you.
In London, this is Shivi Jervis with a very special guest. Thank you for watching.